in restructuring. Actually, it looks for restructuring cases, and this was an evident one. So since the beginning, the vision was to take the bank and build on the bank in order to consolidate the market, because we saw that there was a significant opportunity. And with a lot of work, and thanks to the lot of good people that we found in the bank and we recruited outside the bank, we embarked the journey. It's been, as I said, a lot of work, so things don't come easily. But I think the results were very good, because we started to come to the details of your question with the situation in which the bank has a huge 1.2+ billion of non-performing loans. And through a lot of work, one by one, and so on and so forth, we managed now to have 156, if I remember well, at the end of June 2019. And in parallel to the restructuring of the bad loans portfolio, we embarked in the new products and services for the bank clients, as well as the consolidation. So we took advantage of having the possibility to consolidate Postbank, to make an integration. We took advantage of the fact that Raiffeisen was leaving the country to buy Raiffeisen Bank, and to integrate Raiffeisen Bank into NKBM. And then we also took the advantage of a Summit leasing being sold to build a very nice leasing business in Slovenia. The additional milestones that had been reached, and I'm very proud of and very grateful to the management, to the staff that achieved this, was the transition to a new core banking system. So we could migrate something like in excess of 100 applications into a new core bank system, which was done in a very ordered manner, without issues. And I have to say by experience that this is really rare, so it's a big success. And now we have a new core banking system that works, that improves the service to the clients, simplifies all processes and controls. And I think we are now in a very good shape for the next step, which is clearly a
Could
bank.
you tell us a little bit about the new step? Obviously, with the first acquisition, you were happy because you decided now to acquire the third biggest Slovenian bank, Abanka, and you will probably merge both banks. Do you want to compete with NLB?
Yeah, I mean, I'm personally extremely excited, and I think that there is really the opportunity to take the best of the two banks, and best, I mean people, I mean products, I mean processes, and I mean also the dreams of these two banks, because now we have the financial strength to basically create the leading bank in Slovenia, and with financial strengths and vision, strategy, and people, you make things happen, as it was demonstrated in the last few years. And
by chance, do you plan to expand into the region? Because both NKBM and Abanka are Slovenian local banks. Do you envision something like that?
I mean, frankly, I think that you need to do step by step. And now the real focus is to integrate the two banks, to take advantage of the complementarity also in terms of geographical footprint of the two banks, and to build the best bank in Slovenia.
Usually private equity funds don't stay too long with the investments in certain company. What are your plans for the exit?
I mean, this is a very good question, but I mean, the time horizon is very much linked to the value creation. So it may take just a few years to restructure and to exit, or it may take longer. And then if you make, as we made, add-on acquisitions with Raiffeisen, with Summit Leasing, now with Abanka, I mean, there is still restructuring potential and value creation potential. So I think that the time horizon, in order to do a good job and to give to the country and the communities the bank that we wish to build, is going to take at least 2 to 3 years. Mm-hmm. And in terms of exit, I think that if we collectively work well, there will be opportunities in different forms and shape. Clearly, bank can be acquired by other banks, but I think that the size and the performance that we work for achieving in this bank will allow also for an IPO, which I think will be a very
probably
good.
not in Slovenia. Where?
I mean, this is something that has not been decided, as well as not been firmly decided. The exit will be driven also by opportunistic valuations. But I think that Slovenia could improve a little bit the capital markets, because clearly it's important that it builds on capital markets. Yeah.
But I have to ask for another question. For a time being, Apollo is a huge fund, but for a time being in Slovenia, you're investing only in financial, actually in banks. Have you ever considered also other sectors in Slovenia to invest?
Yes. You said rightly so that Apollo is a big fund, and if I may explain, it's not just a big private equity fund. It's a big also credit fund, it's a big real estate fund. And I think that for private equity, we need a big, sizable business. So we need to deploy a lot of capital, because the fund that had been raised, the last one is 24.7 billion. So you need big tickets and are not necessarily available. But then there are other opportunities to enter the market with real estate, non-performing loans, and lending in structured forms. So the fact that we are now in the market and there are a lot of colleagues here give us also the opportunity to know better what's available. And for sure the experience, which has been extremely positive, is a big plus when opportunities are then brought to the investment committees in New York.
So you would consider it if there is something?
If there are good opportunities, we always look for them.
Yeah. Okay. Michal, nice to have you with us again. Welcome. Michal, as you know, he was with us before, so he's representing Enterprise Investments, who bought a few years ago Intersport in Slovenia. How happy you are with this investment? What have you changed in the company?
Good morning, first of all, and extremely happy and proud to be there. Thank you for the invitation. The Intersport, we are sort of halfway. We own the company for less than 3 years, and I'm extremely happy about this investment. And the business has basically doubled on the EBITDA level over the course of this time, and we sort of continue to develop it on all fronts and countries. Since our investment, I think quite a lot has changed. I think it's easier to say what hasn't changed. That's the brand, but other than that, quite a lot has. Particularly, every retail deal these days has to be very strongly focused on digital and e-commerce, which we build up from scratch to a very, I would say, significant level already and growing exponentially. But this is just one of those. We also continue to develop the company outside its core market of Slovenia, with a very tremendous growth recorded in Serbia over the course of last 3 years. So quite a lot is happening, and I think we'll have even more surprises yet to come.
Have you checked some other opportunities in Slovenia?
Pretty regularly, I have to say. So we're operating in a different ticket size. Yeah. So we're seeking for companies sort of 20 to 200 million euro enterprise value. So there's quite a lot of those around. At the same time, we continue to focus on what we do best, which is basically growing the businesses. And we're not engaging into restructuring cases. We pretty much try to play a standard pure play private equity game. we continue to be active. I'm pretty much sure we'll deploy more money into the region, but we're
Where
sort of
in the region?
statistically
I'm
irrelevant
curious, where in
in
the
terms
region?
of size of the probe. You never know when it happens.
Where in the region? Which countries in the region are?
I think we're speaking of the region. We continue to look at obviously Slovenia, Croatia, and Serbia, and these three countries are the core focus of ours in the, say, Adria region, right?
It would be interesting to hear the differences, which you notice, but we don't have
Oh,
time now. But in Poland, you're investing also in the health center. Have you considered something like that also in Slovenia? There are some, ARCs and some other funds are actually investing in Slovenia in the health sector.
Yeah,
What about you?
In Poland, we own the largest private oncology chain, radiotherapy business, and it's only located in Poland. We have not expanded it beyond the country, but I think healthcare is, or used to be, is still one of the beloved industries for private equity. However, it has its own challenges. And obviously, while there is very strong tailwind in terms of demand for such services, we're all getting older, right? I think that the biggest challenge is the funding. There are basically three ways to fund the healthcare business. There's out of pocket, there is private insurance and public insurance. And the more serious the treatment gets, it's obviously unethical to use basically the first source. So you're left with private and public insurance, where I think, from a private equity perspective, the secured flow of funding is the most important thing. So looking at the due diligence of a healthcare business, that would be the first thing I'll be looking at.
So private insurance could be very important for.
Well, I think I'm not shy of either private or public insurance money. I think it's someone said today at the very beginning, I think yourself, about stable business conditions, which is the core focus in this particular industry, obviously.
Thank you, Michal. For the second time today, but I'm not going to ask you about family business this morning, but about your adventure with Treeglow in Slovenia. A few years ago, you established with them Treeglow, a fund supposed to invest in the real estate market in Slovenia. How the fund is doing and how happy you are with their activities, or your activities actually, because you're part of the owner.
Sure, with pleasure. We took the assumption that to invest in Slovenia and in the region, we needed to become Slovenian. And that's why we decided to establish this operating company, which is a joint venture between KGL and the insurance company Treeglow, to look at investment opportunities in Slovenia and in the wider region, in our core asset class, Cs, which are real estate, renewable energy, aviation as well, and private equity, but the German way, not the Anglo-Saxon way, which is a little bit what we would call Mittelstand capital, meaning investing long-term, not having those pressures of turning around return, high double-digit return within 5 or 7 years, which we don't think is sustainable in the long term for domestic economy. So our experiences in Slovenia has been great. I mean, through ups and downs, but we have a great team, leadership. We have very good partners who are trustworthy, reliable, and we're sharing this common vision. We're trying to invest responsibly, long-term, and to benefit to the local domestic economy.
What could be the benefit of the local economy with your presence here? We are talking just about real estate.
About real estate, it's a hot potato topic. You see across Western Europe that the pricing of real estate has soared. There will be some adjustments sooner or later. There is an intrinsic value to real estate, which is based on its utilitarian function. So when you invest in real estate, you need to carefully select the location, the type of assets, and also anticipate what would be the use of these real estate assets in 10 years, in 15 years. And especially these days, the social behavior of people is changing, the way they're working, the way they're living, the way they have entertainment. So you need to think about all the themes, and you come with a rational and exciting investment themes in the region. Our impact, I believe, with what we're doing with Treeglow and the funds, it's to institutionalize a little bit more this market, create more liquidity and volume to support the growth, but always on a very careful, conservative approach. Again, we're very conservative, very German type-like, which I think is a value that Slovenian people are
appreciate.
Definitely. Yes.
Have you, when you established the fund with Treeglow, also planned to buy certain assets from bank asset management company?
From what, I'm sorry?
Bank asset management company, from the bad bank, let's say. They had, or they still have probably some real estate in their portfolio.
Sure, those are things that you're looking at, but we haven't been active on this sector. I think after the financial crisis, larger private equity funds specialized in this type of things went there.
But you already mentioned this morning that you are actually active in a very different sectors elsewhere, investing in renewables. So what about these other investments? Is Kegal thinking of investing in Slovenia in other sectors?
Sure, it's part of our initial mandate with the Treeglow company. It's to look at renewable as well in the region. We've been studying and looking at different deal flows, even with local companies like Petrol, who are also interested into renewable. What we see, a lack of deal flow.
Lack of deal flow.
Lack of deal flow currently, institutional characteristic for investment, but this you cannot hold it too much. It's also a situation over the last 5 years. In electricity, you have two components. You have the wholesale price and the price that we're all paying on the electricity bill. And actually, structurally, the market in Europe for wholesale has been very low. So there hasn't been that much development unless in countries with the scheme of support feed-in tariff. Now it's changing. I think the price of electricity wholesale has been increasing. You see more and more investment opportunities. Our group outside of Treeglow has been active recently in Bulgaria. So definitely we're looking for opportunities and we will be monitoring those markets. But again, I think we'd rather wait for the right opportunities, the right market situation. Why? Because all investors, us, they're just pension funds, insurance companies as a whole. They're people who need to preserve capital and match long-term assets and liabilities. So you need to find the right thing for them because you're fiduciary responsible. And you need to make sure also that the impact for the country is positive.
Sure, that's the most important, I would say.
Exactly.
And the last question for all three of you. Could you please state one, let's say, good trend that you noticed in Slovenia while investing here, and one issue that you would like to be, from regulatory or practice, whatever point of view, that should be changed? Let's start with you, Andrea, if I may.
Yep. I find extremely good, and I think also these kind of events and occasions are extremely favorable, the openness of Slovenia to trade and welcome investors and do business. The different institutions are solid, at the same time are approachable. So I think it's a good environment we feel to be part of the community, which clearly is very important. So that's a good one. Then on the, let's say, areas for improvement, clearly an investor usually wants to have clearly the big themes like democracy, like economic policies, like stability, etc., etc. And when it comes to taxation, we found that the personal income tax, including the social contribution, is in some occasion an obstacle to attract and retain talents. And also the, I would say, dynamics and the changes that in the tax regime are brought are not really very helpful. And so this is to mention one. Then if you want a few more, I follow you.
One would be fine. Michal, thank you.
I think starting with the positives, I think the fiscal responsibility of the government of Slovenia is something we consider very highly in terms of safety of investment in the country. I think we all remember the rainy days 10 years ago. Right now, the overall economy, I do believe, is way better fit into whatever may happen, coming mostly from Germany in the coming quarters, right? But not only. Regarding the challenges, I think I'll build up a bit on what my colleague said. I mean, the availability of labor force, qualified labor force, is the key challenge facing basically all of the countries in emerging Europe, or Southeast Europe, Central Eastern Europe, whatever you name it. And A, too sophisticated, B, too high taxation on the personal income is obviously something that makes the challenge of getting good people even more challenging. So I think I very much share this view.
I promise we are looking into this and trying to change things, believe me. Gregory.
No real specific comment. I think we're very happy with our experiences in Slovenia. Maybe a high-level comment. What we notice during our meetings or travel through Slovenia and the region, something came across. You could have people from different spectrum, a different part of the spectrum, politically, economically. And one thread that we identified, very often people from different boards, they sit together, they discuss matters pragmatically. And I think this is a great asset for the country, and even more can be made in this respect. But aside this, no, it's a wonderful country, very good people. Yeah, we have many friends in Slovenia.
So we can expect more of your investments here in the country.
Sure, and definitely our commitment to the country, yes.
Thank you very much. And now I would like to invite our first keynote listener this morning, Matjaž Filipič from the Kaja Finance. I would be very happy to hear from Matjaž, as now also local investor, having the newly established funds. What are your experiences as the investor if you compare to foreigners? Do you have any advantage because of being a local investor?
Hello. I will speak today in the name of ALFI funds, alternative funds. First of all, it's very welcome that we have international investors coming to Slovenia because they set up some standards, benchmarks. On the other side, when we speak with them, they see Slovenia many times as baby Austria, comparing to Croatia or Serbia. They still like Slovenia because of stability, infrastructure. Also for the funds that we set up, I think the government took care for the legislation that is tax available. When we were setting funds, it was the same cost as setting up in Luxembourg, for example. On the other side, we see opportunities because when foreign investors say small or medium companies, for Slovenia this is micro companies, yeah? On vice versa. So there are many companies, and the other observation was also lack of deals. On our side, we see there are many companies because of generation swaps that are looking for investors, but they are of smaller sizes and not on the radar of foreign investors. And that's why we see our position, let's say, as a baby fund of Apollo, we would like to be someday, or enterprise investors at KGAL, for sure, to do homework on this segment, that to help local companies that need some kind of push to do this homework, to get on the radar of foreign investors somehow, to bring in the how to say, or how the companies are organized, what is the approach to expansion and everything. So this is the thing. And maybe the last thing, when we spoke with Trival, it was also they were thinking about foreign investors or local investor. When selling a company or looking for investor, this is like very personal thing for the owners, and they also look which obstacles are there for the company. It's the language, it's like positive nationalism as well, how we can work with the local people, and this is maybe, these are the areas where we have advantage, but for sure, the only way is to cooperate, to work with the big guys as well in the future.
Still, Matjaž, add to the list of what the distinguished guest said, positive and maybe one thing that should be improved to really have.
Positive, for sure, people speak many languages, people are well educated, people in Slovenia are open to ideas. That's for sure positive approach. Negative, maybe this is also observation from foreign investors, and also as a local sometimes they ask us many times how much corruption is in Slovenia comparing to Balkan region. We say there isn't, also we haven't met it, but in Slovenia is small and we all know each other. And foreign people see this as certain corruption because doing favors to each other. Yeah? And this is sometimes just to do as standalone some things, sometimes you are limited. This I must say.
You would say more professionalism,
Yeah,
actually.
of course.
Thank you, Matjaž. Thank you, distinguished speakers. Nice talking to you, and I wish you a lot of success in Slovenia in your future endeavors. Thank you very much. We heard from the investors what are their expectations, but now we would like to hear from Aida Zuderman, the new director of Spirit. What Spirit actually can offer to the foreign investors? What are their main activities to stimulate new investments in the Slovenian economy? Aida, the floor is yours. Please.
Good morning. I'm almost out of the business because everybody already spoke so greatly of our country that I have almost nothing to add. So, I'm very grateful to everybody who shared their experiences. So far, I shall try to present what the state does to support foreign investors. As you can see in this chart, it's not so very specific, but Slovenia gains a lot of trust in the last 10 years. Not only worldwide, the export of our services and goods doubled. It increased for almost 80%. It is also a very known fact that FDI in Slovenia increased for almost 100% in the last 10 years. It was in the year 2009, total amount was around 7 billion euros. And in year 2018, the total amount of FDI stock in Slovenia is at the level of 15.1 billion euros. So you can see that everything doubled. Much was done in our country to support foreign investors, so I shall just briefly mention a few of the last larger investments. As you can see, in the last 2 years, we are especially proud of the two larger investments. Yaskawa, which is a Japanese investor, decided to build the biggest factory of industry robots. With the production set in Slovenia, they will be able to supply 80% of Europe's needs for industrial robots. So that's a very, very good decision for Slovenia and for Yaskawa, as the decision was made based on the ability of our government to directly negotiate the terms for the investment. So as you can see, the timeline of 3 years from the decision to operational factory is not so short, quick. However, somebody would like to see the factory set up in 1 year. However, 3 years is a very quick time. Magna Steyr decided to set up a factory in Maribor area. The timeline, 18 months, is also very quick, given the fact that it had to acquire quite a lot of permits. I have to say that the state has shown, especially Ministry of Economic Development, a flexible approach to the matter. They have been constantly in direct negotiations and constantly trying to help with all other governmental institutions. So that is a lot of support from the very dedicated team on the state side. Existing investors also see a lot of opportunities to expand their businesses. So as you can see, Kühne & expanded its capabilities to support logistical business in Slovenia. Also, Goodyear has been a very, very good partner of Slovenia over the years, and in the last year they have completed the stage of expansion with approximately 6,000 square meters of new surface that will accommodate the advanced tire making procedures. Sorry. So, as we saw in the beginning, institution deadlines are one of the biggest obstacles in Slovenia, but over the last few years we have shown that the state is doing a lot in individual helping with procedures. Also, as a few of you have mentioned, Slovenia is being picked as an investment destination over its very, let's say, attractive qualities, which are, as you can see, our effective taxation for FDI is around 13% if you choose to give your money also in research and development, which is 100%. It has a 100% tax deduction. So overall, 13% is not so much if you have all areas of your business running, including research and development. That's why the pipeline, which is being guided through the agency and through the Ministry of Economic Development, is substantial. We cannot say the exact numbers of interested investors, but the number is substantial, and we are looking to have, let's say, a win-win situation in the matter. That means that we know that our qualities of skilled workforce, Slovenia has, I think, in Europe, on average, the largest percent of engineering staff available, which is a quality very much appreciated also by Danfoss, which is one of the traditional and very, very quick investors in Slovenia. We speak all sorts of foreign languages. We have excellent logistic paths to all parts of Europe. So the win-win combination means that we are able to pick, let's say, industries and investments with higher value added because we have in return something to offer in terms of our qualities, which are being recognized more and more. Let's see that at our public agency, let's say, we offer quite substantial support to new or to existing investors. With aftercare program, we have been able to help the existing investors to invest around, let me see the number, which is exact, 4 million extra investments in the last year. For the new investors, we are trying to digitalize our services, but we are the focal point that can help you get the right ideas, get the right information, and connect you to the right business opportunities, which are centrally let's say, managed somehow in our agency. So to sum up, we still think we have a lot of opportunities to tap into. We still have a lot of qualities that can help you grow your business, and we invite you to contact us so we can give you a hand in your process. If anyone is here today, I have a few colleagues with me, so please contact us.
Thank you very much, Aida, but one additional question.
Okay.
Can we soon expect, with your help, to get, for example, another investor like Yaskava, or are you negotiating with somebody?
I think we are on a good path to get additional investors that would like to invest into maybe some acquisition of a company that has a lot of research and development potential globally. The last acquisition that was made in Slovenia was Helios. I'm not aware if you know it, which the people local are very happy with, but the investors decided to set Slovenia as their world-leading development center, so our engineering power can come to life at that matter.
So I hope next time we will hear from you that you brought another important investor to Slovenia. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
And now, please listen who are our next speakers.
Rob Irving, partner, Dentons. Matej Pirc, Chief Executive Officer, Bank Asset Management Company. Matjaž Ulčar, Managing Partner, Ulčar & Partners Limited Law Firm.
The last round of our discussion this morning. Thank you for joining me. And actually, I would like to start with you, Matej. You have been now the Chief Executive Officer of Bank Asset Management Company in Slovenia, which was established many years ago to help to restructure Slovenian economy. Surely the investors here in the hall are most interested what kind of opportunities are still there in bad bank, let's say, or bank asset management company, and be put on the market soon, let's say.
Well, BMC still has 750 million euros of assets in portfolio. Most of it, 60% are claims. 200 million is in real estate and 100 million in claims. So from its incorporation, this is in 6 years. From then, BMC has sold for 1.6 billion euros of assets, and also important, created more than 200 million of additional capital. So, of course, the most interesting assets for the investors are our claims, which consists of, well, which are probably attractive because of the cash flow that this company generate, because we are really trying to restructure the companies and to add value and to bring also additional money than when we sell these claims. Of course, these claims are also pledged with collaterals, mainly real estate. This is also something that is attractive for the investors, and we also we managed to recover lots of these real estates, and we are now the owners of them. And as I said, there's 200 million euros of them. And a few companies like Alpina, MLM, share in Cincarna, Raune Press, and also now strategic companies like Istrabens and Termana Tourism, which will be on markets, I think, in few years. So it's not...
Few years?
Yes, it's not on
I
sale
mean,
now.
you have a deadline for BIMC, so you don't have that much, I mean, lifetime.
Yes, our lifetime is till 2022. But as you know, the government accepted strategy of tourism, and all the tourism assets will be put into a fund. And when this will be successfully finished, then this will be also on
You also mentioned Cincarna and Alpina. These are two quite good companies. Do you plan to start the sales process, to privatize? Or?
Yes, there's quite a lot of interest, especially for Alpina already now, but we still haven't finished completely the restructuring, but I think we will start with the sale procedure in a few months.
Of this?
Yes.
Bravo. Now I would like to move to our distinguished lawyers. They are both well known as M&A lawyers. Rob, you were with us a few times in the past, correct? You have done some transactions in Slovenia, but quite some years ago. What happened lately? Why you are not so much present with the deals in Slovenia?
I think, first of all, Slovenia has a developed legal market, so to attract a foreign qualified lawyer like myself to come in, there needs to be larger deals, and those are infrequent enough so that I'm not here all of the time. But what I would say is that just because I haven't closed any deals in Slovenia in the last 3 years doesn't mean that I haven't been trying to close deals. I have been working on Slovenian matters, but we all know the larger the deal in Slovenia, the more complicated it can be to try to pull off the deal. And
why is so difficult to pull off the deal?
Well,
Tell me some reasons so we can learn and improve.
I would say two primary reasons. I think, first of all, whether it be government is the owner or the company is private, privately owned, people are not always dead set on selling. So there are an awful lot of deals that get started, that a process gets started and doesn't get completed because I think there's a certain amount of ambivalence about selling, whether a company is considered strategic and there's some fear that by selling it, somebody else, a foreign investor may come in and take it apart and you'll lose a Slovenian treasure. Or in the case of entrepreneurs, how much control they'll give up over their baby. And
they create it, yeah.
So there are some great Slovenian companies. Foreign investors certainly are very interested in them, but that ambivalence does make it much more complicated.
Questions to both of you, Matjaž and Rob. What are actually the most important factors considered by foreign investors when they are entering a new country, like, for example, Slovenia, a new market?
Well, a stable business and legislative background, I guess that's a first, most likely, most important reason robust, simple set of rules consistently applied. That's something that attracts investors. Obviously, that's just the beginning. The next, potentially even more important thing is a good target. And there are different sets of investors for a different target. I mean, not every investor is suitable for every region, for every company, for every business. And looking from or building on the discussions that we had this morning on family-owned businesses, on how family-owned businesses operate, what kind of a corporate culture, kind of corporate governance they have. Not every investor is suitable for investment in such a business. So I guess from the business side of view, it's really important to select investors that have a proven track record of investing in a certain business and a certain industry.
But how to select the best one? Matej, you also experienced some sales processes while being the CEO of Slovenian Sovereign Fund. There were some very successful transactions, but also some failures. Why the failures happened and how to, in the future avoid that kind of failures?
Well, there are probably many reasons why some failures happened.
One is very tough these days, so
I wouldn't like to be the judge of this, but I know in general I would say that every company needs responsible owner, also managers, corporate governors capable of developing the business, knowing why they bought the company, how they will add value to it, where to create synergies and so on. So I think that Slovenia has quite a lot of good stories. Only a few bad transactions, or not transactions, but they finished badly. So the last one, of course, in less days. But as I said, you need to have responsible owner who knows what.
But did you, as the CEO of Slovenian Sovereign Fund, had very clear measures how to select? What was the criteria actually for selecting the investors?
Maybe I can speak up here,
Okay.
because I advised Slovenian Sovereign Fund and Matej on these things.
Good,
And
good.
the criteria have to be very objective criteria. When you're a government selling, it has to be very clear, objective criteria, and you can't judge on the success rate of a certain investor investing somewhere else. It's, do they have the financial capacity to do the transaction? Do they have any criminal record, so on. These are the sorts of things that the EU permits you to judge. And it's very regulated. Otherwise, it constitutes state aid, and the transaction can be nullified. So quite a lot of care. And I was on both sides advising Matej and opposite Matej. And I can say I was not always happy with when I was opposite him. Actually, we were never successful. He sold to other investors, but I can say that they made the right decisions in terms of the selection process and applying EU norms. They even pushed it to the limit, but always with the interest of Slovenia within those EU norms.
Would you agree with me that usually price is the only decision-making criteria? But
that
it's not
ultimately,
always the best one.
when it comes down to the final decision, price is supposed to be the only criteria. That's absolutely right. You can have pre-qualification criteria on the other things, but then ultimately when you're making that ultimate things, and certain cases like the one Matej referred to, in the case of Ager Airways, when you're faced with one investor there at the end, there's not too much you can do. You have a choice: either you nullify the procedure and start over again, which is not always an option if you've got a company that really needs to be out of state hands, or then you've got the EU and the IMF breathing down your neck.
And just adding a little
Matesh.
bit to that, and again building on a very, very interesting discussion that your panelists had this morning, family-owned businesses or private businesses, when they're seeking for an investor, they're often in a better position than the state. I mean, the state is bound by certain rules. Price at the end of the day is the final deciding factor, while the family businesses or the private businesses, they can look beyond that. They can see whether the investor is really a good fit, do they have the right strategy, what is going to happen with the company in 5, 6, 7 years, how they will treat the workforce, how they will develop the company, will it grow, will they just make money and sell and disappear? And those are the decision-making ideas behind the investment process that private investors can and should do. And strategy potentially is a more deciding factor in those kind of investments than the pure price per share.
Yeah, I think...
Matej wants to add something. Sorry, Rob.
To add that there's no doubt. Of course, during the sales process, the team, me, the management, we discussed different criteria with the investors, requested commitments from them, but at the end, the price was, of course, the most important, especially if there was a huge difference between the offers. But for all this, you need to have competitive
Process. Sure.
This is very important.
Sure.
I think Maciej has made a very good comment. Private investors who have a very clear vision on how to expand a business, those become a very attractive investment. In my view, Slovenia needs more don-dons. An entrepreneur who has a vision to grow a Slovenian domestic business into a regional champion. And that can attract real investment in
Let's talk
Slovenian
about that a
companies.
little bit. When we discussed over the phone today's roundtable, I asked you why you are not so much present here in Slovenia and what are actually your deals now. And you mentioned that you're very active with SMEs in the region who are trying, or they want to, from Czech, from Croatia, they want to invest not only in Western Europe, but even in United States. How to prepare a Slovenian SME, or what are the reasons that Slovenian SMEs are not so ambitious to go abroad and expand even further?
I think probably Maciej is more capable in terms of saying why they aren't more ambitious. But what I can say, we heard a speaker earlier on the panel on family-owned businesses talk about the challenges being faced today by the German Mittelstand and how they need, the globalization of the economy, needing to move quicker and so on. I think it is incumbent upon all medium-sized companies to think about what is their strategy. Are they at risk of being overtaken by the market if they don't have a strategy to grow, to become more international. So yes, expanding beyond the borders, whether it be in the region or globally, is important.
Matjaž, you wanted to add?
Well, I mean, we've heard today already that SMEs are to a certain extent backbone of a Slovenian economy, and we would like those companies to be successful, to be aggressive, to grow, and to grow beyond Slovenian borders, obviously. I mean, Slovenia is a small country, Slovenia is a beautiful country, and the quality of life here is really incredibly high. That's what we hear from all of our friends.
So you think this is the reason why they don't go abroad?
To a certain extent, yes. We like it here. But the same can be said for almost every country in the region. And if we look at the broader region around here, Slovenia, I think it was said Slovenia, Croatia, Serbia as the countries of interest. I mean, if we look this from a global perspective, it's a small region, 25 million people, 7 different jurisdictions. It's not a very attractive market for somebody really big, somebody really global. And I think it's the role of the SMEs to make it attractive, to grow beyond Slovenia, to acquire similar companies in Croatia, in Serbia, in Romania, Bulgaria, or Hungary, if you will. And listening to Matjaž earlier, Alfie and Generali Investments, I guess I'm very happy to see we've got early growth local funds here. And I see the role as promoting outbound investments. I think a structure where you get a private equity investor that is willing to accept minority role, that is able to agree a reasonable set of corporate governance to keep the managers, the previous owners, eager, aggressive, and committed. I guess this is something that is going to help internationalize our companies.
And of course, the new knowledge that they bring, like corporate governance, new sales strategies, and marketing.
That's really a good point. I'm very happy that you mentioned that. When we are looking what the investors bring to the table, everybody says, well, new equity funds and their network of financing the relationship with the banks. And yes, they bring that. That's the most obvious thing. But they also bring discipline in decision making. They add certain quality in the decision making with their planning and their rules. And beyond that, they bring their network of experts to help on operational level with sales, with production. It's one thing to produce 100 units of something and sell those. It's completely other thing to produce 10,000 units of the same product and sell it. It's a different animal. And I guess a proven investor with a good track record can help SMEs with that.
Last question for you, Matjaž, because I believe investors would be interested to hear. You're quite active also in the energy sector in Slovenia. Do you see any potentials for the investors in this domain?
Thank you. That's a tough one, honestly.
Make it simple.
Because energy sector, I guess, is a good example of Slovenian outbound investments. Not a lot of opportunities here, especially on the renewable sections. And I was a bit surprised to hear that in the region the deal flow is currently not big, because I've got totally different experience in that region. The deal
You're talking
flow,
about Western
the deal
and
flow
Balkan.
Well, there are a lot of potential good transactions. There are a lot of potential bad transactions. Definitely, you need to understand the legislation, you need to understand the market, you need to understand the people behind the projects. I mean, if you just look at Petrol as one of our national or even regional champions right now, they've done a tremendous amount of investments in the energy sector in the region recently. Many of them really, really successful investments contributing to the EBITDA of the group that have been recognized also by the business community. So energy sector is something that's attractive in the region, but unfortunately, especially renewables, not really attractive in Slovenia.
Not yet, let's say, not yet.
Not yet.
I would like to open the floor to you. Is there somebody who would like to ask our distinguished guests some questions? The microphone. No question? Then I would like to invite our last keynote listener, Mrs. Nevenka Kržan, our former president of AmCham Slovenia and partner of KPMG, to comment what she heard, but maybe because we heard primarily from Rob about the trends in the region with SMEs, what are actually global trends, if you could share this with us. Thank you, Nevenka.
Thank you, Nevenka. Good morning, or better say good afternoon to all of you. Thank you, distinguished speakers and guests. I think we had a tremendous morning. To conclude this morning, I would like to share with you maybe some last data about the global trends in M&A, and as well some my thoughts about some geopolitical challenges that the world is in front of, and Slovenia as well, as being part of European Union, cannot avoid. All of those challenges I can see as an opportunity for us, especially with the support of our, as we heard today, Spirit and other institutions, as well you, our local and foreign investors. We are all, maybe just to say, last year, 2018, was the third highest in the amount of M&A in the world, $4.1 trillion over the market. Of course, this year, we heard about the slowdown and the flow of the deal is not the same. Yes, that is correct. In Europe, M&A market in the first quarter dropped for about 60%. Of course, why? Definitely one of the reasons is Brexit and insecurity around it, as well for all of the region. Definitely the second is the trade tensions between the States and China. Here I would like to share with you that, let's say, Britain M&A lost the third place this year against Saudi Arabia. So investments, M&A activities are moving into another parts of the world. And we have to grab our opportunity here as Slovenians. Maybe I would like as well say that regulatory environment is becoming tougher and tougher. Let's say Monsanto and the Bayer deal, it took 740 days to close. So it's not easy, and it is getting as well, it is a pressure to all the investors. Maybe as last, I would like to mention one mega trend. This is climate change. This is as well one of the trends that is in front of us that we have to be aware of and start to work on it as well in our Slovenia. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Nevenka, for your... Aisha, are you happy? We are on time. So I would like to thank you, all of you, being a very good audience, listening carefully to us. I would like to thank all the speakers and keynote listeners to share with us their experiences and also some proposals, which I believe we will take home and try to work on those proposals. I have one last information to share with you. Those who are invited for a lunch with the Prime Minister, please be there the latest 12:30. It's another hotel in Sloan, Aisha, correct? And hope to see you in 2 years again for the same event. Thank you very much.
Thank you for joining us at the panel Inside the Investor's Mind. Those who signed up for the lunch, please join us at the Hotel Sloan by 12:40 p.m. at the latest. Enjoy the rest of the day and join us tomorrow for the second day of the conference.